If you are over 75 and you feel like your body is slowly shrinking, no matter how much protein you eat, no matter how much you try to stay active, I need you to stop for just a moment because what I am about to share with you may be the most important thing you hear all year about your health. I know that sounds like a bold statement, but I say it because I have spent over 2 decades working with aging adults in clinical and surgical settings, and I keep seeing the same painful pattern repeat itself. People doing everything right, eating their eggs, drinking their protein shakes, trying to stay on their feet, and still watching their strength slip away year after year. Still struggling to open jars, still feeling unsteady when they stand up too quickly, still feeling like the body they used to have is becoming a distant memory. That is not laziness. That is not weakness, and it is absolutely not your fault. But here is what most doctors never take the time to explain. After 75, something changes inside your muscle cells that makes them resistant to the very signals that used to keep them strong. And no amount of extra protein alone is going to fix that. No amount of trying harder is going to overcome a biological shift that is happening at the cellular level. What you need is not more effort. What you need is a smarter strategy that actually works with your biology instead of pushing against it. There are specific fruits, not supplements, not powders, not expensive medications, that may activate biological pathways that help your aging muscles actually respond again. Not by magic, not by some exaggerated claim, but by directly targeting the real reason muscle loss speeds up after the age of 75. And one of them, in certain biological pathways, may actually outperform traditional protein sources in how it supports muscle retention in older adults. That surprised even me when I first looked closely at the research. And I want to share it with you today in a way that is honest, clear, and genuinely useful. I am going to walk you through all of it, the science in plain language, the practical steps you can take starting this week, the 5 specific fruits, and exactly why this approach works when so many other things have not. So stay with me, because by the end of this video, you are going to understand your body in a way that very few people do. And more importantly, you are going to know exactly what to do about it. I also want to say something before we get into the details. I know how discouraging this can feel. You have probably heard a lot of advice over the years. Some of it contradicts other advice. Some of it worked for a while and then stopped. Some of it never worked at all. And I think one of the most frustrating things about aging and muscle health is that the guidance people receive is often designed for younger adults and simply applied to older adults as if the biology were the same. It is not the same. And the sooner you have information that is actually tailored to where your body is right now, the sooner things can start to shift in a meaningful direction. That is what today is about. Not a one-size-fits-all plan, not advice that was written for a 45-year-old and handed to you, but an honest, grounded look at what is actually happening in your body and what specific steps can actually help. Now, before we go any further, I want to mention something. I recently put together a longevity guide specifically for adults over 70. It walks through the exact nutrition and lifestyle principles that support healthy aging at the cellular level. It covers muscle preservation, inflammation management, mitochondrial support, and how to build metabolic resilience as you age. If that sounds like something you want, you can find the link in the description below. A lot of people have already found it helpful, and I think you will too. Now let us get into what is really happening inside your body, because this is where everything changes. The most important thing I want you to understand early on is this. Muscle loss after 75 is not simply about eating enough protein. That is what most people believe. That is what most people are told. But it is only part of the picture, and honestly, it is not even the most important part. The real issue is something called anabolic resistance. Let me break that down in plain language. When you were younger, your muscles were very sensitive to the signals that told them to grow and repair. You ate a meal with some protein in it, and your body would use that protein efficiently. The signal was strong, the response was fast, the system worked the way it was supposed to. But after 75, that signal becomes weaker, much weaker. Your muscle cells do not respond to protein the same way they used to. It is like trying to start a car that has been sitting in a garage for a long time. You are turning the key, but the engine is not catching. The fuel is there. The intention is there. But the response simply is not happening the way it needs to. And here is what makes this so frustrating for so many people. They try to compensate by eating even more protein, more eggs, larger portions, more shakes, and they still do not see the results, not because the protein is not there, but because the internal machinery for processing and using that protein has changed. And eating more of what is not being fully used does not change the outcome. There are three main reasons this happens, and I want you to understand all three clearly. The first is the anabolic resistance I just described. The muscle cells themselves become less sensitive to the building signals. The communication pathway between protein intake and muscle response weakens with age, independently of how much protein you're actually consuming. The second is mitochondrial decline. Your mitochondria are the tiny energy-producing units inside every one of your cells. Think of them as small power plants. They take the food you eat and convert it into the energy your cells use to function, repair, and maintain themselves. As we age, these power plants become less efficient. They produce less energy per unit of input. And when your muscle cells do not have enough energy available, they cannot repair themselves, they cannot grow, and they struggle just to maintain what they already have. This is also why many older adults feel tired even when they have not done much. The cellular energy production system is genuinely working less efficiently. And every cell in the body, including your muscle cells, experiences the effect of that. The third is something researchers call inflammaging. This is a term that combines the words inflammation and aging because they go hand in hand. As we get older, the body tends to develop a low-grade background level of inflammation that never fully resolves. It is not the kind you feel dramatically, the way you would after an injury. It is much quieter, but it is constant. And this chronic background inflammation directly interferes with the signals that tell your muscles to repair and rebuild. Think of it like this. Imagine trying to have a conversation in a room with constant background noise. The noise does not make communication impossible, but it makes everything harder. Some of what you say does not get through. The quality of the signal suffers. That is what chronic inflammation does to the repair and rebuilding process in your muscles. So you have three things working against you simultaneously: reduced sensitivity to building signals, declining cellular energy production, and chronic inflammation blocking the repair process. This is why you can be doing everything you were told and still feel like your strength is fading. It is not about effort, it is about biology. And when you understand the biology, you can work with it instead of pushing harder against something that is not going to respond the way you expect. This is exactly where those specific fruits come in. Certain fruits contain bioactive compounds. These are natural substances that have real measurable effects on the biological processes I just described. They can reduce that chronic background inflammation. They can support mitochondrial function. They can improve the way your body processes and responds to protein. And when those three things improve together, your muscle cells become more capable of doing their job again. This is not about eating more fruit for more sugar. It is not a general wellness suggestion. It is about using specific nutrients in specific foods to improve the internal environment of your muscles so they can actually respond to the protein you are already eating. And I want to be very clear about something. This is about working with your biology, not fighting it. When people understand that distinction, something shifts for them. The frustration eases, the strategy becomes clearer, and consistency becomes much more achievable because you are no longer working against your own body. By the end of this video, you will know why muscle becomes harder to build after 75, how certain fruits improve the way your muscles respond to protein, which 5 fruits appear most supportive based on the research, and why one of them stands out clearly above the rest for adults in this age group. This is practical. This is realistic. And everything I am about to share can be added to what you are already eating today. No overhaul, no extreme changes, just targeted additions that your biology can actually work with. So let us get into the fruits. The first one is guava. Now, guava is not the most common fruit in most households. But I want you to hear this because the reason guava makes this list is genuinely impressive. And it addresses something very specific that affects muscle health in aging adults. Guava is one of the highest natural sources of vitamin C that exists anywhere in the food supply. A single guava can contain several times the vitamin C of an orange, depending on the variety. And I know what you might be thinking. Vitamin C is for immune health. What does that have to do with muscle? Here's the connection most people miss entirely. Vitamin C plays a critical role in the production of collagen. And collagen is not just about skin. It is a structural protein that forms the connective tissue around and within your muscle fibers. It is part of the physical scaffolding that holds your muscles together and allows them to function properly under any kind of load or movement. When collagen production is compromised, which happens naturally as we age, the structural integrity of your muscles is affected. Recovery after physical activity becomes slower. Tissue becomes more fragile. And the whole system becomes more vulnerable to the gradual breakdown that accelerates muscle loss in older adults. Vitamin C is essential for the enzymes that build collagen. Without adequate vitamin C, collagen synthesis does not happen the way it needs to. And because your body cannot produce vitamin C on its own, you have to get it consistently from food. Beyond collagen, vitamin C is also a powerful antioxidant. Oxidative stress, essentially cellular damage caused by unstable molecules called free radicals, is a major contributor to the poor muscle repair environment we talked about earlier. When you reduce oxidative stress, you are improving the conditions your muscle cells need to do their job. You are clearing interference so that repair signals can actually be received and acted on. Guava does both of these things at once. It supports collagen production for structural muscle health, and it reduces the oxidative stress that gets in the way of cellular recovery. Small fruit, significant cellular impact. You can eat guava fresh, which is ideal, or find guava juice in most grocery stores. If using juice, just watch for added sugars. Fresh or minimally processed is always the better choice when available. The second fruit is one you almost certainly already have in your kitchen. Bananas. I know bananas have a complicated reputation. People have been told for years they are too sugary, too high in carbohydrates, that they should be limited. And I want to address that directly because when it comes to muscle health in older adults specifically, that thinking misses something important. Here's what matters about a banana. The potassium. Potassium is an electrolyte, one of the essential minerals your body uses to conduct electrical signals through your nerves and muscles. Without adequate potassium, muscle contractions become less efficient. Nerve signals do not travel properly. The chain of communication between your brain and your muscles gets disrupted in ways that affect your strength, your coordination, and your ability to recover. In older adults, potassium levels tend to be lower than optimal for a variety of reasons. Changes in kidney function that come with age affect how the body manages potassium. Certain medications many older adults take, including some blood pressure medications and diuretics, can deplete potassium over time. When potassium is consistently low, muscle performance and recovery both suffer measurably. But beyond potassium, there is another reason bananas belong here. Glycogen. Glycogen is the stored carbohydrate energy inside your muscle cells. It is what your muscles draw on when you are active. Walking, climbing stairs, getting up from a chair, any form of physical activity burns through some glycogen. And when glycogen stores are not adequately replenished, your muscles do not recover as well. They fatigue more quickly. And over time, your overall capacity for movement gradually declines. A banana eaten after activity helps replenish that glycogen in a gentle, whole food way that is appropriate for most older adults. You are not flooding your system with processed sugar. You are providing natural fuel that your muscles can actually store and use. Timing matters here too. A banana with or shortly after a protein-containing meal is going to be more effective than eating it alone at a random time. The combination of protein and carbohydrate together is one of the most well-supported strategies for muscle recovery in older adults. The protein provides amino acids for repair. The carbohydrate restores the energy stores that allow recovery to happen. Together, they create a more complete recovery signal than either does alone. Now, the third fruit is where the science gets genuinely interesting: pomegranate. Pomegranate has been studied across many health contexts, but the findings most relevant to our conversation center on its effects on mitochondrial function and blood flow. And both are directly connected to why muscle loss accelerates with aging. Remember what I said about mitochondria being the power plants inside your cells? When those power plants decline in efficiency, your muscles cannot produce the energy they need to maintain themselves, repair themselves, or respond to the demands you place on them. This mitochondrial decline is one of the central mechanisms driving age-related muscle loss. Pomegranate contains a family of compounds called polyphenols. These are naturally occurring plant chemicals with antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. And in the case of pomegranate, these polyphenols have shown in multiple research studies the ability to support mitochondrial efficiency. They help those cellular power plants run more effectively and maintain their function under the biological stress that is common in aging tissue. The decline still happens, but the rate and severity can be meaningfully influenced by what your body has consistent access to. And then there is the blood flow component. Pomegranate polyphenols appear to support the production of nitric oxide in your blood vessel walls. Nitric oxide causes blood vessels to relax and widen slightly. When your blood vessels are more open and flexible, blood flows more freely. And when blood flows more freely to your muscles, more oxygen arrives, more nutrients arrive, and more waste products are cleared away efficiently. For aging muscle already dealing with reduced cellular efficiency, improved blood flow is not a minor side benefit. It is the difference between a muscle cell that has access to what it needs and one that is working in a kind of nutritional drought. Multiple studies have examined pomegranate polyphenols in relation to inflammation, muscle soreness, and recovery in older adult populations. The results have been consistently positive enough that this fruit earns a well-supported place in any serious conversation about muscle health after 75. Pure pomegranate juice without added sugar is widely available. It has a tart and intense flavor on its own, but many people enjoy it diluted slightly with water. Fresh pomegranate seeds are also excellent and provide the added benefit of fiber. The fourth fruit is kiwi, and kiwi belongs on this list for reasons that complement the others in an important way. Kiwi is rich in a specific combination of antioxidants and natural enzymes that have a particularly strong effect on systemic inflammation. And you remember what we talked about with chronic background inflammation? That low-grade persistent state that directly blocks the muscle repair and rebuilding process. The antioxidants in kiwi work through multiple different biological pathways simultaneously to reduce that background inflammation. They are not all working by the same mechanism, which is part of what makes kiwi so effective. You are getting a broad approach to inflammation reduction from a single small fruit. Multiple pathways addressed from one simple addition to your diet. When systemic inflammation decreases, the environment around your muscle cells improves significantly. The biological interference that was blocking protein signaling pathways gets quieter. Your muscles become more capable of receiving and responding to the protein you eat. The door opens. The signal gets through. This is one of the most important points in this entire video. You can eat more protein. You can time your meals carefully. You can stay active regularly. But if your body is consistently operating in a state of chronic background inflammation, all of those efforts are working at reduced efficiency. They are not wasted, but they are not producing their full potential result. Reducing inflammation is not a side benefit here. It is a prerequisite for the other strategies to work properly. Kiwi is also high in vitamin C, similar to guava, which reinforces collagen synthesis and oxidative stress reduction from a complementary direction. 2 kiwis a day provides a meaningful dose of these compounds without any significant concern about sugar content for most people. They are easy to eat, require almost no preparation, available year-round, and pack an impressive nutritional profile into a very small package. Now we come to the 5th fruit, and this is the one I want you to remember most clearly. This is the one that, in my assessment of the research and my clinical perspective, stands out as the most powerful for adults, specifically in this age group. That fruit is pineapple. The reason pineapple stands out comes down to one specific compound it contains. That compound is called bromelain. Bromelain is a proteolytic enzyme. In plain terms, a proteolytic enzyme is a substance that helps break down protein. It works in your digestive system to help your body process dietary protein more completely and more efficiently. And for adults over 75 dealing with anabolic resistance, the digestive step in protein processing matters enormously. Here's the full picture. When you eat protein, whether from eggs, fish, chicken, or a protein supplement, your digestive system has to break that protein down into smaller building blocks called amino acids. Those amino acids are then absorbed into your bloodstream and transported to your muscle cells, where they serve as the raw material for muscle repair and maintenance. But as we age, digestive efficiency tends to decline. The natural enzymes your body produces to break down protein do not work as effectively. Stomach acid production decreases. Digestive function slows. And this means that even if you are eating adequate protein, you may not be absorbing and utilizing as much of it as you believe. Some of it passes through without being fully processed. This is a layer of the problem that very few people discuss. Older adults frequently have protein intake that looks adequate on paper but results in amino acid levels lower than they need to be, precisely because digestive absorption has become less efficient. Bromelain helps address this directly. By improving the breakdown of protein in your digestive system, it increases the amount of amino acids that actually make it into your bloodstream. More amino acids in circulation means more raw material available for your muscles to work with. You are getting more out of the protein you are already eating without needing to eat more of it. But bromelain does not stop there. It also appears to reduce the levels of certain inflammatory signaling molecules called cytokines in the body. These cytokines act as chemical messengers that promote and sustain the chronic background inflammation we have been discussing. When bromelain reduces those inflammatory cytokines, you are getting an anti-inflammatory effect that works through a completely different mechanism than the antioxidants in kiwi or guava. So, what pineapple provides is a 2-part benefit. Better protein utilization because digestion improves, and lower chronic inflammation because inflammatory signaling is being directly reduced. Less inflammation plus better protein utilization equals a meaningfully stronger muscle-building signal. That combination is what makes pineapple uniquely powerful for this specific age group. One very important practical note. Fresh pineapple is the source of active bromelain. Canned pineapple has been heated during processing, and heat destroys bromelain completely. If you want the actual benefit, you need fresh pineapple. Frozen pineapple that has not been heat-treated can retain some bromelain, though fresh is the most reliable source. A cup of fresh pineapple several times a week is a reasonable and practical target, and I want to say this clearly. Pineapple is not a substitute for adequate protein intake. It is an enhancement of how your body uses the protein you are already eating. The shift from trying to eat more protein to helping your body extract more value from the protein it already gets is exactly the kind of strategic thinking that makes a real difference after 75. Now, I want to talk about something that pulls all 5 of these fruits together, because individually they each do something meaningful. But there is a layer to this that is even more important. These fruits are most powerful as part of a system. Adequate protein intake is the foundation. You still need to be eating protein consistently. For most adults over 75, the research supports aiming for around 1.0 to 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day, distributed across your meals rather than concentrated in one large sitting. Your muscle cells can only absorb and use so much protein at one time. Spreading it across 2 or 3 meals gives significantly better results than eating most of it at dinner. Light resistance-based activity is the second component. And I am not talking about lifting heavy weights at a gym. I am talking about any kind of activity that asks your muscles to work against some form of resistance. Walking, water exercises, sitting down into a chair slowly and standing back up, done deliberately and repeatedly. These kinds of controlled movements create the demand signal in your muscles. The activity creates the demand. The fruit compounds and protein provide what the muscles need to respond to that demand. Without the demand, even excellent nutrition produces limited results. Meal timing is the third component. Eating protein with or close to the time you consume these fruits gives you the best opportunity for their effects to overlap and reinforce each other. The improved digestion from pineapple, the reduced inflammation from kiwi and guava, and the protein all working within the same biological window. That overlap is where the real synergy lives. When you bring these 3 things together consistently, the fruit compounds reduce inflammation, support mitochondrial efficiency, and improve nutrient delivery. The protein has a much better internal environment to do its job, and the physical activity gives your muscles the signal that repair and maintenance are needed. The quantity of any single input matters less than the combination of all of them working together consistently over time. That is the shift in strategy that changes outcomes after 75. Not just more of the same thing you have been doing, a smarter, more targeted combination of the right things at the right time. Now I want to address something I mentioned earlier. A very common habit in older adults that can cancel out many of the benefits we have been talking about. And it is not about fruit sugar, and it is not something most people would expect. The habit is prolonged, uninterrupted sitting. I know that might sound almost too simple after everything we have been discussing, but the reason behind it is worth understanding clearly. When you sit for long, uninterrupted periods, blood flow to your lower extremities decreases significantly. The large muscle groups in your legs and hips begin to shift into a kind of metabolic idle state. Research shows that even 1 to 2 hours of continuous sitting can begin to reduce the muscle protein response to a meal you ate earlier in the day. The internal window for muscle repair and rebuilding gets narrowed by extended inactivity. This means that even if you ate the right foods and timed them thoughtfully, several hours of sitting quietly afterward can meaningfully reduce what those strategies were able to accomplish. The solution does not need to be dramatic. Getting up and moving for even 2 to 5 minutes every hour keeps blood flow active, keeps nutrient delivery to your muscles happening, and helps maintain the sensitivity of your muscle cells to the signals you are trying to create. A short walk to another room, standing and doing a few gentle movements, even walking to get a glass of water. These brief interruptions to prolonged sitting have a measurable protective effect on the muscle maintenance process throughout the entire day. This is one of the most underused strategies for muscle preservation in older adults. Not because it is secret information, but because it is so simple that people tend to assume it cannot matter that much. It does matter. And when it is combined with the nutritional strategies we have discussed today, the combined effect is significantly greater than either approach alone. So let us bring everything together now. Muscle loss after 75 is not inevitable in the way most people assume. It is a biological process with specific, identifiable causes, and those causes can be meaningfully addressed with the right strategies applied consistently. The real drivers are anabolic resistance, which reduces how well your muscles respond to protein, mitochondrial decline, which reduces the cellular energy available for repair and maintenance, and chronic low-grade inflammation, which blocks the communication pathways that regulate muscle rebuilding. When you target these three things specifically, which is exactly what the 5 fruits we talked about today do in their own respective ways, the conversation about muscle health after 75 changes fundamentally. Guava reduces oxidative stress and supports the production of collagen that maintains the structural framework within your muscle fibers. Bananas restore the glycogen fuel your muscles need for recovery and keep potassium at the levels required for proper muscle contraction and nerve signaling. Pomegranate supports mitochondrial efficiency and improves blood flow, so oxygen and nutrients can actually reach your muscle cells when they need them most. Kiwi reduces systemic inflammation through multiple biological pathways, improving the environment in which protein signaling can operate effectively. And pineapple, through bromelain, helps your body break down and absorb protein more completely while simultaneously reducing the inflammatory molecules that block muscle repair signaling. Together, these 5 fruits work on the exact biological barriers that make muscle maintenance so difficult after 75. They do not replace protein. They do not replace physical activity. But they create the conditions in which protein and physical activity can actually produce the results you are working toward. And every single one of these fruits is available at the same grocery store you already visit. This is not about expensive specialty products or complicated new routines. It is about adding specific targeted whole foods to a foundation that you may already have partially in place. Start with one this week. Choose whichever feels most accessible and most practical for your current routine. Add it to a protein-containing meal. Build from there. You do not need to do everything at once. Consistent progress with the right strategy applied over time is what produces real and lasting results. And if you want a full roadmap that walks through exactly how to combine these nutritional principles with appropriate activity patterns, meal timing strategies, and a broader framework for protecting your strength, your mobility, and your independence as you age, the longevity guide I mentioned at the beginning of this video covers all of it in detail. It is linked in the description below. If this video gave you something genuinely useful, something that changed how you understand what is happening inside your body and what you can actually do about it, I would love for you to subscribe. I put out content every week focused on calm, science-grounded guidance for healthy aging. No fear tactics, no exaggerated claims, no complicated jargon designed to impress rather than inform. Just clear, honest information from someone who has spent decades in clinical settings watching what actually makes a real difference for real people. Your strength matters. Your independence matters. Your ability to move through your own life on your own terms matters deeply. And your age is not a disqualifier from progress. I have seen people in their 80s make meaningful improvements in their strength and functional capacity when they had the right information and applied it consistently. Not dramatic transformations overnight. Real, steady, sustainable improvement that made daily life easier, safer, and more enjoyable. That is what is possible when you stop trying to fight your biology and start working with it. The biology of aging, while real and significant, is not a wall. It is a system. And systems can be understood, worked with, and meaningfully influenced when you have the right information and the right strategy. Thank you for taking the time to watch today. It means a great deal to me to know that this information is reaching the people who genuinely need it. Take good care of yourself this week. Start with one small step. And know that small, consistent steps in the right direction add up to real change over time. I will see you in the next one.